you could tell us like 3 jokes on the spot that you just made up out of nowhere, that'd be great.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Bradley and John, there you go. Right there. We've done it.
3 jokes right there.
On the spot.
Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. I am John, and like always, I am here with our good friends, the light of the world, Bradley DeHaven. Brad, how you shining over there, brother?
I am nuclear powered, man. Yeah. Something's glowing here. I don't know what it is, but it's, yeah.
Brad's got the
I'm
sun.
reflecting the light of God. How's that? Is that a good answer?
I think the sun is right out your window, just begging to come in. Mm-hmm. Brad, it's too hot out here. Let me in. And then they go to St. Luke's like, nah, you guys don't ever fix your ACs. I'm not going in there.
That's why it is hot. See?
That's right, it's hot. And of course, Brad, we are here with our good friend, Tom Tarver. How are you doing this morning, brother? Tom, that's you.
I am doing well, as always.
Hey, all right. Glad.
Tom, wake up.
Yeah.
I've already got your internet is unstable. I don't know.
Okay.
This is not, this does not bode well.
All right. No, that just makes it all the more fun, Tom.
Yeah.
Especially when you freeze.
That's right.
We've had some already frozen twice.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, I think some of our best clips over the last couple of years have come from Tom freezing on us, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think I have some of that. So anyway, all right, gentlemen, be on your best behavior, please. We have a guest with us today, a new guest, a guest that's new to all of us here. Someone we should be listening to, someone we should follow, someone I tell you has just grown our audience, at least by this episode, by one person. This will probably be the first episode my wife watches and listens to. But 2 years or so that we've been doing this, I don't know that my wife's ever listened, but she is so excited for us to introduce Dorie McLemore to the Almost Perfect podcast. Dorie, how are you?
Doing wonderfully. Awesome.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time to come hang around with a bunch of Corpus Christi preachers. Things must be going well for you.
She's moving up. I'm telling you, this is good. Or maybe we're moving up. That's the deal.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. I did read somewhere you were on Michael Jr.'s podcast.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love Michael Jr.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He told one of my favorite jokes about his son wanting to be a doctor.
Yes.
But then I won't tell the joke. You just have to go look it up. But anyway, we are glad you're here. If you're here in the Corpus Christi area, you don't know Corey. now I'm doing Tom's deal. Tom called me Brian to start out. Yeah. At least I was rhyming.
Not an auspicious beginning here, fellas.
That's
right. Just saying.
Dory's not coming to Corpus Christi after all. Dory is going to be in Corpus Christi at Asbury United Methodist Church, do a comedy show on Friday. What is that? The 7th, right? And we are excited to be able to work. Dory, have you been to Corpus Christi before?
I don't think I have. I live in Texas, so you would think. I mean, but I don't. Maybe we drove through it or something. I don't know. I don't know geography very well, so I have to look it up on a map to even see where anything is. But are you by a beach?
If you drive to the water, if you drive in the water, you've gone too far.
That's it.
And the only thing we need to know about you are what are your views on Whataburger and Selena? That's all we need to know.
I would have a hard time. Yeah, I'm going to just pretend my son is addicted to Whataburger, so I've just eaten a lot of it.
That's fine.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just a lot. But I like.
Well, wait till you come to Corpus.
It's everywhere, right?
So you don't know this. Corpus began here. Here I go, guys. Whataburger.
Corpus did begin here.
Corpus did begin here. Whataburger started here in Corpus, and you cannot drive 5 minutes without going to another Whataburger.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Good to know.
2 minutes.
Just be ready for that. 2 minutes.
And I have to tell you.
Well, our baseball team plays at Whataburger Field. Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
The founder of Whataburger was members of my church, and they helped to build my church.
Nice.
Just saying.
Okay.
Nice. Do you get free Whataburgers, Brad?
This is the church that Whataburger built.
Yeah, and at the Hooks game,
and I say that with all joy. I really do, because it's really cool.
At the Hooks games, instead of baseballs, they throw out Whataburgers, and that's what they hit around bases. So anyway,
That's hilarious.
and then of course Selena's from Corpus Christi, so please, if you don't like Selena, do not mention that at all.
I will not mention, and I like all people. There's not a lot of people I don't like, so we're good.
And the other thing is, if you don't like Selena's music, you probably haven't heard it.
That's right. We are all about the bitty bitty bum bum around here.
Okay.
So, all right.
That is good.
All right. So one of the things we like to do is kind of scour the bowels of the internet and see if there's a story we can find to hopefully find something funny out of it that's helpful. Maybe even for some of our preacher friends who are getting ready for their weekend sermons. Maybe it's an illustration that they use, or maybe it's just something we laugh at. And I got to tell you guys, I wasn't able to find a whole lot this week. I guess the world's been quiet, or I just didn't know where to search. But I do have one here. I thought, you know what? You ever been, speaking of Whataburger Field, Tom, you ever been on Dollar Days? Dog Dollar Days?
Where? At Whataburger Field?
Yeah, Whataburger Field. That's a good draw.
Yeah.
Dollar hot dogs in the baseball
Dollar
game.
hot dogs. That's Sundays. That's why Ellen goes to the games. She goes to the game on dollar hot dog days.
Yeah, what's more American than that, right? Dollar hot dogs and baseball. So Philadelphia man says Phillies dollar dog night helped him uncover cancer diagnosis. So a Delaware County man is crediting the Philadelphia Phillies dollar dog night promotion with leading him to a cancer diagnosis. It's not the hot dogs. He ate too many hot dogs, and let's see, had too many hot dogs, was feeling bad the next day, stomach ache. He thought he had too many hot dogs. His wife convinced him to go to the hospital. Come to find out, they discovered he had stage 4 diffuse large B cell lymphoma.
Oh my.
That's kind of, serious, but I mean, let's give hot dog their due, right? How many hot dogs would it take for you to feel like, you know what, I should probably go in to see the doctor?
Like,
Wouldn't take many.
One?
One.
Yeah. It would take more than one, but it wouldn't take one.
You guys ever watch the hot dog eating contest?
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
That is amazing to me, y'all.
It's disgusting. They put them in their cheeks.
Really is.
And then they get the water and they're all like, you got to squeeze it down. I watched a little documentary of it, and there's like a whole science behind it. It's an actual sport these guys train for, and yes, which I don't have a problem with. The only problem I would have with hot dog eating contest is wet bread.
Oh
yeah.
I don't do wet bread very well.
No.
But anyway, so if you've had one too many hot dogs, maybe you should go to the doctor.
Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind as United Methodist is intinction.
Yeah, that's why I use that's why I only get like a little piece.
Okay.
And that's why I go to dip it. I'm like, psych.
No.
So you're not one of those that goes in there and just,
double dipping.
No swirling. Okay.
Yeah, no double dipping. Nothing like that.
It's always funny when the person puts it in their mouth. This has happened a couple of times. They put it in their mouth, then they realize, if they spit it back out.
So
it's
they spit it back.
And you're
No. You don't get to do that.
Sister, that's why there's COVID. Okay, that's all it's about. And the kids are pretty bad about it as well, because they don't, know what they're doing. We're teaching them, and they're just kind of going. They're like everything else. So it drives the parents crazy, but you got to laugh about it. It's fun.
I like it watching the expression on people's faces when you give them the piece of bread and they dip it in the cup, and the bread breaks off and starts floating in the cup, and they don't know what to do. Do we go in after it? Or,
you go fishing for communion?
That's right. Just kind of, let me just get that out.
God.
Here's another piece of bread. Life is fun as a pastor. You got to know.
Yeah. I was just thinking,
I wonder
guys,
if Jesus had this problem at the Last Supper. I don't know.
Well, that's why he let the disciples feed all the 5,000 people. You guys deal with them. I'll just stay right here and come up with the life-changing message. Okay.
We'll gather up whatever's left over. Afterwards. But,
look, there goes Tom's internet. Tom must be thinking something happened to Tom. He's like, wait a minute. That's Southside internet. Come on, Tom.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. It froze and then it just stopped.
All right.
Dropped out.
Right. Modern technology. So I was just thinking, guys, usually all the guests we've had over the years, they've all been pastors. Dory, you are the first not a pastor to be with us.
Wow. That's
That's
a lot of pressure here.
Yeah,
this is groundbreaking.
Yeah, heathen, I guess.
It means we're actually moving up in the world. This is good.
Yeah, I think we're fooling ourselves, Brad, but thanks for making us feel good, Dory. We appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
So I don't know if you know this, Dory, and guys, you chime in on that. I can remember the first time I heard it, I think it was in seminary, a professor told us, if you want to become a better preacher, one of the things you should do is pay attention to stand-up comics.
Really?
Right? Because stand-up comic, it's timing. Your words matter, right? You need to be clear with your words, and you can't just throw words out there. You're learning how to sort of read a group of people. Are they really engaged, right? Yeah, and so many parts of that. And I've just always wondered, so preachers, they're taught and told to pay attention to stand-up comics. In the stand-up comic world, are you guys told to listen to preachers so that you can be better stand-up comedians?
Wow. Probably not.
Evidently not.
Probably not.
If you ever want to know if you ever want to know what not to do, check out your local preacher on Sunday morning. Do you find? I've read some of your stuff, Dory. I know you're involved with ministry and things like that. Do you ever get like preacher types who are like, maybe they feel like they got to go too deep with the jokes because you're around?
Yes. No, yeah. It's I like it. It's kind of fun to watch that. Or they try to give me material, which never works to do someone else's material, so I always like that part when they try to give me jokes and I listen for it. And sometimes I write it down just for me to be amused later. So, but it's not because it's not good. It's just not going to be something I could ever use. So it's fun.
When you listen to a sermon, do you like jokes in a sermon?
Yes.
Is that helpful?
No, I'm a big laugher in this. I feel alone in the laughing sometimes because it's like I'm sometimes at the 9 a.m. service and our pastor's really funny. And I am like, I want to just like beef up the laughter, and I'm like laughing louder than I should be. And but it's hilarious. I love funny speakers. I think it helps like actually cement like the point because you remember stuff when you're emotionally attached to it, so it's I love it. So.
Okay, very good. And you're in Dallas, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm south of Dallas. So yeah, like Waxahachie area.
Oh yeah.
That's quite a bit south.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. So we would ask Dory to be a part of our show just so we could feel good about what we have going here. And she was so gracious to be with us. But I also thought it would be helpful if she could kind of talk about, what she does. And I know Dory has a sense of ministry behind what she does. And we can kind of talk about where those two fields, ministry and comedy, where they kind of come together and how you've seen that, how you understand that, where that comes from, and maybe just to kind of prime the pump, kind of get going. Like, how did growing up, did you know you were funny and you wanted to like tell jokes for a living or for Jesus?
No, I honestly, my family wasn't surprised when I told them that this is what I was going to do. But I was surprised. Like, I was like, this is not something like, I wasn't allowed to watch any of the comedy on TV. My parents were kind of strict. I couldn't even watch the Smurfs, so it was not happening.
Whoa. What's going on in the Smurfs?
I think it was that spell book and Gargamel, and his cat was named after some kind of demon. I have no idea. I just know I could not ever watch the Smurfs. And yeah. So
do you ever want to watch it now and be like, let me see what's
kind of, I'm like, what I miss, what was the big, so I do. I don't not regularly, but I have seen it since.
Okay. All right.
You're
I'm
dying.
just saying, if you want to come early on Corpus, we could do a showing for you and we could watch a few episodes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So and I never stayed up late enough to watch late night, which would have been clean at least. But, so it was like, I didn't even know about like stand-up comedy for a long time. And it was actually, my mom had gotten a cassette tape of Patsy Claremont. She's a woman of faith. She's a lot older now, but back when I was 16, she had put out basically a talk that she did for a church. And it had all these funny stories in it. It was like God uses cracked pots was the name of the sermon. And I laughed and saw it for the first time, like comedy with ministry. Like that was my first introduction to kind of like, she wasn't a stand-up comedian, but she was a storyteller and like a funny storyteller. So we listened to that tape probably, 30 times, like just over and over again. And I just thought, wow, that would be so fun. I didn't know it was a job choice. I just thought it was like, wow, I wish I could do that,
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction, but it wasn't until actually I had 2 children. It was 2006. And I was at a women's ministry retreat and I went to the altar kind of just praying about some things. And I felt like God was like, hey, when are you going to do that speaking thing that, I kind of felt like a long time ago, I was supposed to speak at some point. And I was like, well, and I kind of had this argument with God. I was like, in my head, and I was like, well, you can't just go up on platforms and start speaking. You'll get arrested for that. You need to be asked to speak, Lord, And I felt like it's just a nudge in my heart that said, okay, just say yes. If someone asks, say yes. And I thought, okay, I'm off the hook because no one is going to randomly ask me to speak. Like that's just not going to happen. Well, the next morning at the same retreat, my women's ministry director actually pulled me aside and said, Dory, I heard you had the ladies up laughing last night, telling stories. And she said, I want you to be an entertainment speaker at our next women's event. And I was like, what in the world? Like, I didn't even know what an entertainment speaker actually was. And so I said, I'll pray about it, which is Christian for no.
Yeah, we're pastors. We know all about that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Verbatim. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because people often ask me to not speak more, which is great. I'm glad you got the invitation. This is wonderful.
But on the way home, I actually remembered that God said to tell her yes. So I actually called her and said, I meant yes, I'll do it. And it was like 6 months away and she wanted me to do 30 minutes of comedy. And I had no idea that wasn't what you start doing. Like you do 3 minutes on a tiny stage somewhere.
That's a special, right? Almost.
I know.
Yeah.
My first time on stage was 30 minutes in front of like a crowd of a few hundred people. I was like,
wow.
A, B, C, D, F. What do you think? What was your grade?
Okay, honestly, the Lord, now if I look back, I will cringe hard. Okay. But the Lord like literally put his kiss on it because it was not terrible. And it would have, if it had been terrible, I never would have done it again. And I think that's why the Lord was like, she has to do well this time, guys. Like make it funny. And I actually, that whole 6 months, I would wake up, I had like a notepad next to my bed and I would wake up laughing about something and literally write it down. And that's how my acts like came together, like just throughout that 6 months. So I feel like the Lord kind of breathed on it a little bit and, it was pretty amazing. And I had a crappy website, like real bad one that I made myself. And after that, like word of mouth, and despite my bad website, I got like into comedy and just kept getting booked. So here I am. Like,
could be a crappy website makes you a better comedian. That could be, is that part of paying your dues? I mean, nobody starts with a 30-minute special. So maybe you just needed the bad website to kind of ground you a little bit.
That's true. That's maybe what happened. I didn't have money for a professional photographer session, like to make the pictures for the website. And I actually went into a mall photo booth with a microphone and took pictures of myself like this and doing all this stuff. And I had like the photo strip come out and I just used that on my website. Pictures. Yeah, it was bad.
I love it. That's great. That's wonderful.
That's great. It's wonderful.
And so when was that? How far back was
2006.
that? 2006. Wow.
So I'm trying to think the math on that.
16 years.
16 years ago. Yeah.
We don't do math here, guys. Knock it off. Don't try to impress
me.
I've done my I've done my lumosity this morning, so my mind is just
you're blooming to go. Yeah, in church math, that's about 37 years of ministry experience right
exactly.
there. So
exactly. That's right. And there were 17,000 people there watching you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
that's church math.
That's right.
We do attendance in our head while we're
That's
sitting.
right. So do you do mostly kind of ministry events, church events? What is sort of kind of your avenue of comedy?
So I prefer that. I love working with the local church. It's my favorite thing. I mean, women's events like Girls Night Out, because it's an outreach to the community. I just love it because I see people's hearts kind of opening with laughter. And it's so healing for people. So I love that aspect of it. I have done corporate events. I have done crazy events like the one I did at Six Flags recently.
Okay.
Cool.
A roller coaster behind me, and it was 105 degrees outside.
It was winter. Okay, good.
Yeah. Texas winter. And things like that. Like I'll do almost anything, but I mean, I'm trying to narrow it down better as the years go by. I'm kind of like, okay, this is really what I want to be doing. And I try to not. My husband has no problem like making me do things. Like he'll be like, no, take it, Six Flags, that'll be fun. And he laughed his head off the whole time because it was horrible. I didn't have a stage. I had just a microphone. I'm screaming at people basically. I mean, it was horrific, but that was not ideal for comedy. I'm learning what I should and should not, do. But I'm doing mostly, thank God, church events this season, and I just know not to do that at Six Flags anymore.
Did they at least let you in for free? I mean, after that experience,
I could, and it was 105. So
I believe you.
Really want to stay.
I believe you. And a roller coaster behind you. That must have been wonderful. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like us preaching and the choirs doing their thing in the back, making faces and everything else. So anyway, we also like to teach people here as best we can, maybe give a little information they didn't have before. Dory, is there any lingo we need to know? Like we're learning about comedy and watching stand-up comedians do their craft?
I think you mentioned timing before. I think timing is really important. I think I'm even, over the years learned like if you steamroll them with a lot of jokes and they're not really pausing well, they're just missing stuff, especially older people in the audience, like really they need time to like let it.
What'd she say?
Right. That's good. So good timing.
The comedic genius here. Look at it.
Yeah. Well, we old people have to Google the references,
Google. Let's Google.
Who's Drake?
So I think timing is big. I think, it's something I really learned that I think I'm not going to dog youth pastors, but I know because my husband used to be a youth pastor. Mm-hmm. A lot of youth pastors try to relate to the audience and try to think of things to say that's funny, that would be funny to the audience, but they always miss it because it's not like, you know what I mean? Like that's not funny to them. They're trying to fabricate something that would be funny to their audience. But really what's funny that happens to you, even if the person has never had that thing happen to them, it's funnier because it's like relatable because it's your story. It's your thing that happened that was funny. And so I always think that's something that, I think pastors could learn from just because, I think that don't try to relate to your audience too much that you lose that it's happened to you. It's so some of my favorite comedians will do bits on stuff that I never have experienced, just like Brian Regan does this hilarious bit on UPS sending boxes through either FedEx or UPS, I forget which one, but he does this hilarious thing about how he couldn't figure out like the math, how he could weigh it, all this, a hilarious bit. And I have never had boxes like picked up by UPS or FedEx before, but him telling it, the way he told it was just, you just can see it. And it's
so as Christians, we're taught to thou shalt not kill, right? But what does it mean to kill it in the comedy world?
Well, hopefully not the same thing. Although I've done a couple of senior citizen centers where I was like, this is scary for me, because I'm like, that person actually doesn't look like they're live right now. And so I feel like
Dory killed that person.
Just slayed them in the spirit and body too. Yeah.
So normally it's a good thing to kill in comedy, but not when you're at a senior citizen home. It's better if you don't.
Yeah.
And you said your first 30-minute show went very well. Have you ever bombed?
Oh my word. Yes, but luckily not. I mean, as I get older, as I've gotten more into it, it's not happening as frequent. I mean, it's not a frequent thing, or I would not be doing this if it was like the ratio was really high or something. But occasionally, especially when there's it's mostly because it's not set up well for comedy, or, where I don't know, there's there's a roller coaster in the room, or there's outdoor events I've learned are very difficult. Outdoor events, just the laughter goes up into the air. People can't hear you. They're warm, they're hot. And there's this one I did kind of recently for this city of Irving. And it was like an outdoor event, and the background of the stage was all brick, and it was so hot. Of course, it's the summer. I could make a brick oven pizza up there. Like, I was like, I am like sweat. It was just sweat was dripping off of me. And then the people were so far back. I mean, we're talking like, I don't know if it was a football field on terrible distance, but it was so far back that I was like, they're not even, they could not be listening to me at all. Because they want to sit in the shade. So I think that outdoor events, I'm always like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. So,
that's hard. Okay.
But,
I used to live in Irving. I lived down the street from the old Cowboy Stadium.
Oh,
big deal, right? But anyway, all right. So, Dory, when you do comedy as ministry, what are you hoping to provide in that experience for people who are listening and going to your shows and taking in your material? How do you see your comedy as ministry?
Right. And that was honestly a hard question for me when I first started. I really questioned it. Like, Lord, am I going off track here? Because I was like a world missions major. I was, I was something I wanted to be in ministry for my life. So I was like, it feels like I'm just sidetracking now. But he really showed me how, people's hearts are opened by laughter. And, every time I'm about to go on stage, I always pray that I would bring joy and not just try to get laughs. Like, that my job, that's what I'm supposed to do. And that people would leave lighter than they came. Like, that's my heart, because I think we all, especially the last couple of years, we've all been carrying a lot of like emotional weight and just baggage. And there's, so many stories sitting in that audience that people have walked. And I just feel like I want them to be light and open to the Lord. And I have a lot of people that come up to me after the show, and sometimes they'll cry, and they'll say, I had a lady come up to me and say, my husband died 2 weeks ago. I was not going to come tonight. I didn't know why I was coming. I thought I'd never laugh again. And I was able to laugh again. And I was like, wow, this really is, ministry. I think people that would never walk into a church maybe might come in for comedy, because it's just disarming. It's not, and I don't like it when churches kind of do that bait and switch where it's like, come for comedy, but then it really goes deep. Like, I don't mind if it sometimes I give a hopeful message at the end, or it's, inspirational, right, like scripture. And I do, that's when I can, I do close like that. And, but if it's a real hardcore at the end, like
altar call, come to Jesus. And
hold them over the gates of hell or something like that. I'll feel like, okay, that felt like a bait and switch to me. Like, don't do that. But I do feel like it's, laughter bonds people together. Just so many good things. It's medicine. It burns calories. I don't know if you guys knew that, but
tell me that again.
Laughter burns calories. So
that doesn't translate well, because I laugh a lot. But
John, this is what it means. It means we can eat an extra 2 donuts if we go and listen to Dory.
Well, that's a Friday, so that's my cheat day. So I'm gonna take you up on that, Tom.
Does that include hot dogs? I'm just kidding. I really don't. Dollar hot dogs.
We're gonna bring hot dogs to Dory's show here in Corpus.
Oh my God. The hot dog callback. That was awesome. That's fire.
So we've got 2 weeks to figure out what that equals to, so we'll have the answer.
Oh God. Yeah. Depends on how deep you laugh. Like it can't be nasal. It has to be like deep or something in the abs. You gotta feel it. So.
Oh, you gotta work the core. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, Dory, I know that it elevates your mood, even when you're in a bad mood. Even if, and I've done this, where I just start chuckling, and eventually it becomes real, and then you start laughing hard, and my wife is in the other room going, "What's he on this time?"
Yeah, right.
Laughing at you.
Yeah, but it's true. I know that it does something physically in a very positive way to laugh.
That's a great idea. I didn't think about the fake laughing. That's a good idea. Just to start it up. If you're feeling it'll turn around.
It'll
either my audience. Just if you don't feel it, it's not funny. Just start fake laughing. It's gonna do good things for you.
Fake laugh at inappropriate times, and we'll just see what happens. It'll be great.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it.
That's right. So, I had heard that about preachers listening and watching, paying attention to really stand-up comedians. And I'd always, I get that. Well, at the end of last year, I took a deep dive into it. I took about a month or 6 weeks. I read Steve Martin's book. I read several books, different comedians, and I read a bunch of like how to write jokes and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to see. And sure enough, guys, if you haven't done this, Brad and Tom, I mean, some of the process behind the writing is very similar, just a way that I might craft a sermon or, put together messages and things like that. So do you have a particular kind of process, Dory, that's helpful to you, or how do you go about doing that?
I do. I don't sit in front of a computer and write because I think I would just stare at a blank screen for a very long time. It would be very hard to create something like on paper right away. Or what I do is I will be out with friends or usually, sometimes family too, but mostly like because my kids don't think I'm funny. But if I'm with friends, I'll be out and we'll be talking about stuff and we'll be always inevitably be laughing at something. And I'm realizing, what are we laughing at? And I just try to think like, what are we laughing at right now? And sometimes I even like awkwardly say, hey, I'm going to write this down. And I will literally write down like the topic that we were talking about. And maybe if there was something in particularly funny about the topic that we were like focused in on, sure. I'll write it down. And I have like a note, like Evernote is my brain. Actually, it's an app that, it contains my brain. Like they have me like in some kind of hostage situation because if they ever like up the rate to like $1 million, I don't know what I have to pay for my brain, but it's like, it's all there. But I have a note in Evernote and I just, all these ideas and I will just try to pull something out and like, then I'll just kind of talk it through and from a mirror, or sometimes I just try to awkwardly bring it up to other people. Like, I'll just like, how can I work in this, topic of, dolphins or something about like that I try to weasel my way in to talk about it. And then it will like, so I end up working on it in front of my friends.
So you mentioned dolphins and prior to us officially beginning, John was reading some of the list of things that he only read one, and it happened to be with dolphins. So I want to segue into the dolphin because I actually work at the Texas State Aquarium, and so dolphins are kind of a big deal there,
Wow.
And
I don't want to offend anyone.
So Tom, are you suspicious of dolphins, Tom?
I was gonna say I don't know the dolphins personally. They do have names, and I know all the turtle names, but I don't know the dolphin names. So
I will tell you, Tom,
you will not offend me.
I have just met someone, I think probably for the first time in my life, who is suspicious of dolphins. Dory, where does that come from?
You got to fill us in now.
Well, okay, so I am terrified of sharks. Like I have a real fear of sharks.
Sure.
But then I'm like also suspicious of dolphins because I feel like they look a lot like sharks. people just give them a big bye. They say they're friendly because they make squeaky noises, but we don't really know what they're saying. Like we're making up what they're saying. Like, and it sounds like jovial, but it could be like evil. Like we don't know like how diabolical they are. They actually can kill sharks with their noses, which I feel like should be feared. Like are they killing the sharks for our benefit or for sport? Like we don't know what they're doing. And we had like one flipper on TV, like that character, and we all just gave them like this big bye. Like we
big
don't
pass,
yeah.
They're all flippers,
years ago, but yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm dating myself with flipper.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
But that's just like church people. Just the other day, that was 75 years ago. You're
we're still holding on to that,
that image
that flipper had.
That's right.
And to your point, Dory, I mean, who's to say they're not able to do it? But if dolphins were able to have like the shark heads mounted on their wall, maybe they would. They just can't.
Yes, you're right.
So maybe there's something about them we don't know. So Dory, thank you for that's helpful.
We don't know.
Traveling gangs, I'm telling
should
you.
be afraid of here. So
The traveling gangs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
we do.
Yeah. And all the whatever sound they make, it's bad. Anyway,
The image that I get in this is the end of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm sorry, just the whole image of the dolphins flying up and saying, so long and thanks for all the fish.
So what I heard you say earlier, Dory, is that people are always telling us, oh, I can't say that in front of the preacher. They'll probably use it in next week's sermon, which I don't think I've ever done that. I don't really think I have.
Yes, you have.
And when I have, I've always asked permission, except for my wife on occasion. Usually,
if I
wait until you're in the next church and then you talk about the church you were just in.
If I've used the conversation from somebody, it's always years past. But it sounds like, Dory, we need to be mindful of what we say around comedians, because
it's true.
You guys don't care. You'll just go and just put us in your 30-minute shows and that's it.
It's true. My kids know that it's fair game, but I used to have to pay them every time I used them in a joke. I would just be like, okay, I'll pay you.
I think one of our colleagues who is a PK, preacher's kid, had that arrangement with her dad as well. I think I remember reading that recently. So Dory, you said you grew up in pretty, I guess, is it conservative home? Can't watch the Smurfs.
Yeah.
So do you find a lot of your audience is kind of the same kind of ilk of Christian faith?
I mean, I think so. I mean, if I go to the churches, I mean, a lot of them, some of them are a lot more, free than when I grew up. I mean, when my mom and dad they were newly saved and they just were very strict. Like they didn't know like what was the real like boundaries. So they just went all in with it. And it was like, okay, like we just, couldn't, I don't know, Halloween, we used to stay in the basement with the lights out in the whole house. I mean, it was like, there's things about it that my mom would just, focus in on, and that's fine. It was good. We lived a very sheltered life, so it was good. But I think what my audiences are very similar in the sense that they have at least like some, they would probably know what I'm talking about, maybe laugh at something that I would say about like my upbringing or, I think I say that, something about praying. I say I'll pray about it, and that means, it's Christian for no. That's a big one because it's so true. Like, so I'm in a lot of, and especially if I'm in Texas, it is like the buckle of the Bible Belt. Like we are here in that. So even if they weren't in a strict home, they know what we're talking about usually. So.
Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons I asked that is because I wonder because you said before, like, people come up to you after your show and, thank you for that. But are there any sort of reservations maybe going into, because maybe, stand-up comedy is that kind of that, that late night stuff you're not supposed to, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so is there a wall there that you have to automatically deal with? And how does that work?
So I sometimes can tell when I get to an event that the one person who is like the spunky personality, the person that wants to rock the boat is the one that hired me. And I'm like, oh no, and I'm just super like, like that makes me nervous. Or or they'll say it's a secret. No one knows that you're a comedian. And I'm like, that is a big red flag.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to break down a lot of walls to get, to a point where I can, because yeah. And you could feel it in the room almost like a real like reservation to it. And oh my word, I have to kind of sometimes say, okay, like this is going to be a little rough in the beginning, but I'll get them over to the hump. Like we need and sometimes I'll just even take an extra few minutes in the beginning just to kind of like, it's great. God wants us to laugh in church, or we'll like, we'll just talk about burning calories or, stuff like that will kind of put them at like I think that once they realize that I'm not going to go dirty, or I'm not going to, do something horrible in their sanctuary or something like with my words, they realize, oh, okay, this is, they can put their guards down, because it's not going to be offensive. And so sometimes there's been like one time where I was like, whoa, I did not get there. Like they never came around. And it was like, I walked back in time actually, when I walked into this church, and some of the things I talk about me, I'm kind of self-deprecating sometimes. And I talk about not loving to clean or not loving to do these things that I think a lot of women take pride in. And sometimes it's fine. And they're like, me secretly too. I am so like that. But in this one church, I think it was like I was speaking blasphemy when I said I didn't like to clean. And these women just did not, their faces were so mean. And I just kept going because I'm like, well, I'm going to win them. And it never happened. And it was so sad because my friend actually was not even sitting there anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, my friend that came with me left, but I sat down and they said, I think your friend is bleeding in the bathroom. And I'm like, what? I had to take her to the hospital. Like there was this major issue. And I was like, that was actually the high of the event, was taking my friend to the hospital, because the rest of it was, I died up there that time. So
yeah, you were trying to kill it and you took somebody to the hospital. Very good.
Yes.
Close too.
That does remind me of a group that came to our church up in Wisconsin, and they were hilarious. They did a lot of skits and stuff, but they were talking about being in Scotland in a Scottish church, and the entire church was just, they all look like poker players.
Yeah.
And when it was over, then as they were coming out, they were going, you guys were so funny. I almost laughed in church. It's just like.
That is terrifying. Yes. But that's definitely some people's view of it for sure.
Yeah.
That even kind of relates to my experience as a preacher, because churches I've been at, I think I've followed preachers who were kind of the opposite maybe style that I am, or maybe in the tradition of a church, it's sort of kind of been that, Jesus loves you and potluck to follow everything else. And I'm a little more than that, a little different than that. And I can go back and think, I see some congregations where it took a while. I mean, we're talking months and months, right? A while for them to feel comfortable that I did laugh during a sermon.
Right.
I did say something that was actually funny to make a point in the middle of a sermon. And yeah, that is kind of hard sometimes. So, Dory, you have a book out.
Yes.
Hope Looks Good on You. When did you write that?
So I wrote it during 2020, which was because extroverts died in 2020 from isolation. And if we didn't do something, so actually I felt like the Lord in that season tapped me on the shoulder and said, when are you going to write that book? I told you had in your heart to write. And I said, Lord, it's 2020. I'm in a bad mood this year. And so I did not want to write this book. And so, but I had no excuses left because I was stuck in my house, or I was not able to go. I mean, all the stages shut down and it was just crazy. So I started writing this book, and it's a 21-day devotional. Mostly it's for women, but I mean, women always say, oh, I read it. My husband was laughing with me. I read this, so it's actually a funny devotional. There's a funny story, usually at my own expense. And then I do a biblical, kind of truth with it, and then a journaling prompt at the end of each one. I did it 21 days because I heard that's how long it takes to make a habit, and unless you quit, and then it's more days. So I wanted to just really give women the way to develop a habit of hope and joy in their life, so that by starting their day or finishing their day with the word and with a funny story, with laughter, it would kind of start that process of just building that habit. So
You do. You got any plans to do another one?
I do. I am actually writing the second one now. It's a little slower because the world is opened up again. And so I don't have as much, I have a little less time, but it's going pretty well. So
well, if you need any material, we're here for you.
You're right.
That's what we do. That's
Thank you for that.
And we are full of it. I mean, material. Absolutely.
So again, Friday. I'm sorry, Tom, you want to say something?
Well, I was just saying, I know that it seems like they're just being funny, but there is so much truth in what they just said. So
That's right.
You waited all this time to end with that, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The truth.
Finish with the truth. So Friday, October 7th, Dory will be here in Corpus Christi at Asbury. I think that's at 7 p.m. I think there'll be some stuff beforehand. Doesn't involve Dory. There'll be food truck or something. There's free childcare. It's going to be great. Tickets are $10, I hear. Dory, are you going to be anywhere else that people can maybe drop in and hear you and laugh with you?
I have a lot on my calendar it's so funny. It's very far away. So it's like North Dakota and Ohio and Arkansas. I don't actually have, I should have my calendar in front of me, but
that's all right.
Yeah.
So you don't believe that we would just drive up to South Dakota to go watch you? Okay.
I mean, probably not.
I'm going to need you to believe in yourself a little more.
Okay.
Dory, okay.
I was just talking about South Dakota this morning with a friend at coffee and going, anytime something happens twice in the same day, I'm going, oh Lord, are you calling me to South Dakota?
Yep.
Hopefully the western side where it's at least more than just flat.
You got a good bicycle ride.
Yeah. You may see Tom at your next show in South Dakota, Dory. So.
Waldrug. Yeah, you're going to be at Waldrug.
There you go.
So if you're listening and watching, make sure you check out Dory here in Corpus Christi, but also her website is dorycomedy.com. Hopefully it's a little more professional after all these years. And
yeah, it looks better. I hope you would think so.
dorycomedy.com. Check out. I'm sure you have clips and everything else. It'll be a good way to meet you. Thank you so much for being here. This is an honor for us. We are blessed to know you and to now be a part of your ministry in some way. And so hopefully we get a chance to get some Whataburger when you come down, and maybe I'll buy you a Selena CD as well.
Okay.
All right.
Meet you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for the gift of your time. Maybe you need to go write a joke. If the God's been telling you to do something, just do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Just do what God tells you to do and watch what happens after that. That's what Dory learned. That's what all these preachers learn. You might as well listen to God. The calling's not going away. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you next week. Brad, Dory, Tom, thank you so much for the gift of your time, and God be with you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.